The black SUV stopped so close to Ethan Walker's truck that Noah flinched in the passenger seat. The back window slid down. Victoria Cross looked out like she owned the whole parking lot, like the school bell rang for her. "Mr. Walker," she said, calm and cold, "step away from the vehicle." Ethan didn't move. His hand slid behind Noah's seat without thinking, like a shield. Parents nearby slowed down. Heads turned. Phones came out. Victoria nodded once to the man beside her. A security guard in a suit stepped out, holding a thin folder like it was a weapon. He opened it so Ethan could see the top page. A photo. Ethan carrying Lily into the sheriff's office that night. Under it, a bold word stamped in red. Suspect. Victoria's voice stayed soft, which made it worse. "You told the FBI you found my daughter on the highway," she said. "But the FBI thinks you didn't find her." Ethan felt his stomach drop. Noah leaned forward. "Dad, what's happening?" The security guard leaned closer and spoke like he was talking to a broken machine. "We need your phone," he said. "Your dashcam, your truck, and your silence." Victoria smiled like she was offering a favor. $500,000, she said. "Sign this statement. Admit you lied. Say Rachel kidnapped Lily alone, and you never spoke to my daughter." Ethan stared at her. "And if I don't?" he asked. Victoria's smile disappeared. "Then I tell them you were the handoff," she said, "and they take your son next." Ethan's throat went dry, because she wasn't asking anymore. She was daring him to fight a billionaire in public while his child watched. So Ethan asked the only question that mattered. "Why is your daughter drawing castles for me?" he said. "If you're so sure I'm the villain?" Victoria's eyes flicked, just for a second, a crack. Then she whispered, "Because Lily doesn't know the truth." And Ethan realized something terrifying. Maybe neither did he. So why did Cross Technologies want him quiet so badly? And what was hiding inside that teddy bear Lily never let go of? The school parking lot fell silent. Parents who had been chatting a moment ago now stood frozen beside their cars. A few held their phones halfway up, unsure whether they were watching a misunderstanding or the beginning of something ugly. Ethan kept his eyes on Victoria Cross. He had faced men with rifles in desert streets. He had faced explosions and ambushes and nights where survival depended on instinct alone. But standing in front of a billionaire who could destroy his life with a phone call? That was a different kind of battlefield. Noah shifted beside him. "Dad, are we in trouble?" Ethan placed a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. "No," he said quietly. He wasn't sure if that was true. Victoria leaned back slightly in the SUV, studying him the way a chess player studies a board. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she said. Ethan didn't look away. "You're accusing me of kidnapping your daughter," he replied, "in front of my kid, at a school." "Not accusing," she said. She tapped the folder. "Preparing." The security man stepped closer. He smelled faintly of expensive cologne and something sharper beneath it. The kind of man who didn't ask questions once he got orders. "We're offering you protection," he said, "from a situation you clearly don't understand." Ethan laughed once, a dry, humorless sound. "That nanny died protecting Lily," he said, "shot in the head and thrown into a ravine." Victoria's jaw tightened. "And the FBI thinks your company sells cyber backdoors to foreign governments." A murmur rippled through the small group of parents watching. Victoria's eyes snapped toward the phones. The security man quickly stepped between them and the growing audience. "Enough," he said. But Ethan didn't stop. "You offered me $500,000 to keep quiet," Ethan continued. "You came to my kid's school to threaten me." He leaned forward slightly. "So tell me something, Victoria. If you're innocent, why are you so scared?" For the first time, the billionaire CEO looked unsettled, just for a second. Then the cold mask returned. "You think this is about fear?" she asked. "It's about control." The SUV door opened. Victoria stepped out. She was taller than Ethan expected, confident, composed, the kind of woman used to rooms falling silent when she entered them. Her boots crunched against the gravel as she walked toward him. "You saved my daughter," she said quietly. "And that should have been the end of your involvement. But you kept digging." She glanced toward Noah in the truck. "That was your mistake." Ethan's entire body stiffened. "Don't," he said. Victoria stopped a few feet away. Her voice dropped low enough that only he could hear. "The FBI is desperate," she said. "They're chasing a ghost because a paranoid nanny told them a story. Rachel Flynn wasn't paranoid. She stole my child. She hid Lily from killers." Victoria's eyes flashed. "You don't know what happened," she snapped. "Then tell me." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The wind pushed lightly through the parking lot. A school bus pulled away in the distance. Victoria finally sighed. "You're stubborn," she said. Then she nodded toward the SUV. The second security man opened the back door and reached inside. When he stepped back out, he was holding something small, something familiar. Ethan's stomach dropped. A torn teddy bear, the same one Lily had clutched in the blizzard. "What are you doing with that?" Ethan demanded. Victoria held the bear up carefully. "Lily insisted on bringing it home," she said. "She refuses to sleep without it." Ethan frowned. "Then why is it here?" Victoria turned the bear over slowly. The stitching along its side had been cut open, the stuffing pulled apart. Inside the cavity was something wrapped in plastic, a small metal drive. Ethan's chest tightened. "What is that?" Victoria met his eyes. "That," she said quietly, "is why Rachel Flynn died." The words hung in the air. Even the parents watching from across the lot seemed to sense the shift. Victoria continued. "Rachel contacted the FBI 4 months ago," she said. "You know that part. But what you don't know is that she never trusted them." Ethan's brows furrowed. "What are you talking about?" Victoria held up the drive. Rachel believed someone inside Cross Technologies was selling security exploits to foreign intelligence agencies. Quote, "That's what Agent Martinez said." "Yes," Victoria said, "but Rachel didn't think the buyers were the problem." She paused. "She thought the sellers were." Ethan stared. "You?" Victoria shook her head slowly. "No." She turned the drive in her fingers. "Someone inside my company used Cross Technologies to build a private cyber weapons market. And Rachel discovered it." Ethan felt the ground shifting beneath him. "And you're telling me you didn't know?" Victoria's eyes hardened. "I'm telling you, I spent the last 6 months trying to find out who it was. And Rachel was helping me." Ethan blinked. "You expect me to believe that?" "You don't have to believe me." She lifted the drive slightly. "But this proves it." Ethan's mind raced. If that drive contained evidence, Rachel hadn't been stealing Lily. She had been protecting the only witness, Victoria's daughter. Because if someone inside Cross Technologies discovered Rachel was leaking data, the child would be leverage, or worse. "You said the FBI is investigating," Ethan said slowly. Victoria gave a cold smile. "Yes, but the problem with billion-dollar companies is that some of the people inside them have friends in very powerful places." Ethan suddenly understood the look Agent Martinez had given him, loose end. "What's on that drive?" he asked. Victoria's answer came quietly. "Proof. Proof of illegal cyber weapons sales. Proof of the people behind it. And proof," she added, "that if the wrong person gets their hands on it, a lot of powerful people will go to prison." Ethan's heart pounded. "So give it to the FBI." Victoria shook her head. "I tried." "And?" "They tried to take Lily first." The words landed like a hammer. Ethan felt the air leave his lungs. "They said it was for protective custody," Victoria continued. "But Rachel believed something else." "What?" Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper. She believed the leak inside Cross Technologies was someone inside the federal investigation. Ethan felt cold. "You're saying the FBI might be involved?" Quote, "I'm saying," Victoria replied, "that Rachel Flynn trusted exactly 2 people. Me, and the man who saved Lily in a snowstorm." Ethan looked at the torn teddy bear, then back at Victoria. "You're insane," he said. Victoria gave a small, tired smile. "Maybe." She held the drive out toward him. "But if I'm right, then the moment anyone else sees this, Both of our children become targets. Ethan didn't take it. Why bring it here? Because you're already in the middle of this. And because, she said quietly, someone followed you today. Ethan's head snapped up. What? Victoria nodded toward the edge of the parking lot. A dark sedan sat there, engine running, windows tinted. Ethan hadn't noticed it before. Victoria's voice stayed calm. That car has been there since before school ended. And if they know what Rachel hid, they're about to make their move. Ethan slowly looked back at his truck, at Noah sitting inside, playing a game on his phone. His son had no idea that the next few minutes might decide whether they lived normal lives or became targets in a billion-dollar conspiracy. Ethan turned back to Victoria, one question burning in his mind. Why trust me? Victoria didn't hesitate, because Rachel did. Then the dark sedan's door opened, and 3 men stepped out. The 3 men moved fast, not running, not rushing, just walking with the calm confidence of people who already believed they controlled the situation. Ethan noticed the details immediately. No uniforms, no badges, heavy jackets despite the mild spring weather, hands too close to their sides. Military training whispered the truth in his ear. Those jackets were hiding weapons. Victoria saw it too. Her voice dropped low. Those aren't reporters. Ethan didn't answer. He was watching the angles, distance from the sedan to his truck, distance from the truck to Noah, distance from the school entrance where a few parents were still lingering. 30 yards. Too close. Get your security ready, Ethan muttered. Victoria gave a small, humorless laugh. They're already ready. Both of her security guards had shifted position, subtle but deliberate, hands inside their coats now, one standing slightly in front of Victoria, the other scanning the parking lot. The 3 men from the sedan kept coming. Ethan leaned toward Victoria. Do they know about the drive? Quote, they might. And if they do, then we have a problem. Ethan's jaw tightened. We already do. One of the approaching men raised a hand like he was greeting an old friend. Ms. Cross, he called. His voice was smooth, professional, dangerous. Victoria didn't smile. Can I help you? The man stopped about 15 feet away, close enough for conversation, close enough for violence. My name is Daniel Kerr, he said, Department of Justice. He reached slowly into his jacket and produced a badge. Real, or a very good fake. We've been trying to reach you. Victoria crossed her arms. Then, call my lawyer. Kerr's smile widened. This isn't about lawyers. He nodded toward Ethan. This is about him. Quote, Ethan felt the weight of 3 pairs of eyes settle on him. Mr. Ethan Walker, Kerr said, former Army Staff Sergeant. 2 tours Afghanistan. Currently employed at Miller's Auto Repair. Ethan didn't react. Inside, alarms were screaming. They had done their homework. And you, Kerr continued, were the last person to see Rachel Flynn alive. That's not true, Ethan said calmly. According to Lily Cross, it is. Victoria's head snapped toward Ethan. You told them about Lily? I didn't tell anyone anything. Kerr chuckled. That's the funny thing about children. They talk. Victoria's eyes hardened. What do you want? Kerr glanced at the teddy bear in her hand. Simple, he said. The evidence Rachel Flynn stole from Cross Technologies. Ethan felt the air turn cold. So they knew. Victoria kept her face perfectly still. I have no idea what you're talking about. Kerr sighed like she had disappointed him. Miss Cross, you're a brilliant businesswoman. Let's not insult each other. His gaze shifted to Ethan. Rachel Flynn hid something before she died, and she trusted someone to find it. He nodded toward the bear. That toy has been scanned by our satellite thermal imaging since it left Seattle. Ethan blinked. Satellite imaging? Kerr smiled. Yes. We knew she hid the drive. We just didn't know where. Until now, Victoria spoke slowly. If you already know where it is, why not take it? Quote. Kerr's smile vanished. Because, he said quietly, we'd rather you hand it over peacefully. Behind him, the other two men had spread out slightly, blocking escape routes. Ethan felt his pulse steady. This was happening, right here, in a school parking lot. Victoria lowered her voice. Ethan? He didn't look at her. What? If something happens? Protect Lily. Ethan frowned. What are you talking about? Victoria slipped something into his hand. So quickly, no one else saw it. The small metal drive. Ethan's heart slammed. What the? Hide it, she whispered. Then she stepped forward, putting herself between Ethan and the men. Gentlemen, she said calmly, you're frightening the parents. Kerr's expression darkened. Don't play games with me. Then stop threatening people. He gestured toward Ethan. He has the drive. Victoria shrugged. Then arrest him. For a moment, Kerr looked confused. You're willing to sacrifice him? Victoria's voice turned icy. He's a mechanic from Montana. I'm a billionaire CEO. If he stole something from my company, I'd love to see him prosecuted. Ethan almost choked. What the hell was she doing? Kerr studied her, slowly, carefully, then he nodded. Fine. He turned toward Ethan. Mr. Walker. Two of the men stepped forward, hands where I can see them. Ethan raised them slowly. His mind raced. The drive felt like it was burning in his pocket. Kerr walked closer. Where is it? Quote. I don't know what you're talking about. Wrong answer. One of the men grabbed Ethan's arm, rough. Too rough for a federal agent. Ethan didn't resist. Yet. Kerr leaned close. You think the FBI is investigating this? Quote. He laughed quietly. They're not. Quote. Because the FBI answers to the same people we do. Ethan felt something snap into place. Agent Martinez. The warning. The paranoia. Rachel Flynn had been right, Kerr continued. You're going to give us that drive. And then you're going to disappear. Ethan's eyes flicked toward his truck, toward Noah. Still playing his game, still unaware, Kerr noticed. That your boy? Ethan's stomach turned to ice. Don't. Kerr smiled. You should have taken the money when Ms. Cross offered it. Ethan slowly lowered his hands. Kerr's smile widened. Good. Then Ethan moved. Fast. Years of muscle memory exploding into action. He twisted the arm gripping him. A sharp crack echoed across the parking lot. The man screamed. Before anyone reacted, Ethan drove his elbow into the second attacker's throat. The man collapsed, choking. Kerr jumped back. Shoot him! But Victoria's security moved at the same time. One guard tackled Kerr, the other pulled a gun. Chaos exploded across the parking lot. Parents screamed. Kids ran. Car alarms began wailing. Ethan sprinted for his truck. Noah! Quote. His son looked up in confusion. Dad? Lock the doors! Ethan yanked the driver's door open and jumped inside. Victoria ran toward the passenger side. Move! The SUV behind them roared to life. The sedan's driver was already reaching for a weapon. Ethan slammed the truck into gear. Gravel exploded under the tires. The truck lurched forward just as a gunshot cracked through the air. The rear window shattered. Noah screamed, Dad! Hold on. Ethan swerved hard, cutting across the parking lot exit. Behind them, the sedan peeled out in pursuit. Victoria looked back. They're coming. Ethan already knew. In his pocket, the drive felt heavier than steel. Congratulations, he muttered. You just dragged me into a war with the government. Victoria stared at the road ahead. Her voice was calm. No, she said, not the government. The sedan closed the distance behind them. Fast. Victoria finished the sentence quietly. The people who control it. Ethan tightened his grip on the wheel, one thought repeating in his mind. Rachel Flynn died protecting this secret. And now 3 powerful men were willing to shoot in a school parking lot to get it back. So the question wasn't whether Ethan Walker was in danger. The real question was this. How far would they go to silence him before he could expose them? And more importantly, who else already knew he had the drive? The engine of Ethan's old pickup screamed as he pushed it harder than it had ever been pushed. The road out of the school curved downhill toward Pine Ridge's Main Street. Gravel spat behind the tires. The shattered back window let cold air roar through the cab. Behind them, the dark sedan stayed glued to their bumper. Noah twisted in his seat, wide-eyed. "Dad, why are they chasing us?" Ethan forced his voice steady. "Because some people made bad choices," he said. "And they don't want anyone to know." Victoria kept looking through the rear window. "They're closing the distance." "Yeah," Ethan muttered. His truck was old. Tough, but old. The sedan behind them was a newer model, faster, more stable. And whoever was inside clearly wasn't worried about witnesses. A gunshot cracked. The bullet slammed into the tailgate. Noah ducked down with a cry. Ethan's heart jumped into his throat. "Get down!" he shouted. Noah slid off the seat onto the floorboards. Victoria grabbed the dashboard as Ethan whipped the truck onto the main road. Traffic lights flashed past. Small-town storefronts blurred together. The sedan followed without hesitation. They weren't even trying to hide it. "They're insane," Ethan said. Victoria's voice stayed cold. "They're desperate." Another gunshot rang out. This one shattered a streetlight. People on the sidewalk screamed and ran. Ethan glanced in the mirror. The man leaning out the sedan's window was holding a pistol with both hands, not even trying to hide. This wasn't intimidation. This was elimination. Victoria suddenly reached across the seat and grabbed Ethan's arm. "Take the old mill road." "That's a dead end." "Exactly." Ethan frowned. "You got a plan?" "Just drive." Ethan turned sharply, tires screeching as the truck bounced onto a narrow side road leading out of town. Behind them, the sedan followed. Dust rose around them. The buildings disappeared. Soon they were surrounded by open Montana land again, rolling hills, a thin road cutting through scrub grass and scattered trees. No witnesses now, Ethan understood. They want us out here. Victoria nodded. Yes. The sedan accelerated. The distance between them dropped to 20 yards. 15. 10. Ethan's knuckles whitened on the wheel. If they hit us at this speed, we roll. Then don't let them. Ethan gave a tight laugh. Great advice. Noah's voice came from the floor. Dad, are we gonna die? The question punched Ethan in the chest. No, he said immediately. Not maybe. Not hopefully, just no. Victoria looked down at the boy. Your dad is very hard to kill, she said quietly. Trust me. Ethan shot her a look. You sound confident. I did research on you. Fantastic. The road ahead narrowed further. Trees began to close in. The old mill road hadn't been maintained in years. Potholes appeared, mud patches, sharp curves. Ethan knew this terrain. He'd driven it plenty of times, hunting or fixing farm equipment. The sedan behind them didn't slow. They assumed speed would win. Ethan whispered, Big mistake. He downshifted hard. The truck roared. Then he swerved suddenly onto a narrow dirt path branching off the road. Victoria grabbed the door. What are you doing? Shortcut. The path twisted sharply between trees. Branches scraped the truck. Mud splashed across the windshield. Behind them, the sedan missed the turn for a moment. Then its engine howled as it reversed and followed. Victoria looked back. They're still coming. Ethan nodded. Yeah. But now the terrain was different. Rough, uneven, and Ethan knew every bend. The path dipped suddenly down a steep slope. The truck bounced violently. Noah yelped from the floor. Ethan kept control, barely. Behind them, the sedan hit the same drop. Its suspension slammed hard. Victoria watched carefully. You're trying to damage their car. Exactly. Another bend, another dip, more mud. The truck slid sideways before Ethan corrected. The sedan fishtailed behind them. One of the attackers shouted something. Then another gunshot. The bullet punched through the truck bed. Ethan's patience snapped. All right. He accelerated. The path ahead opened slightly before ending at a clearing. Beyond it stood the old Pine Ridge sawmill, abandoned for 20 years. A massive rusting building surrounded by broken concrete and collapsed lumber stacks. Victoria's eyes widened. You're driving into a trap. No, Ethan said. "I'm picking the battlefield." The truck burst into the clearing. Ethan slammed the brakes and spun the wheel. The pickup slid sideways behind a large pile of old timber beams. "Stay down!" he shouted. Victoria grabbed Noah and pulled him behind the seats. Ethan reached under his own seat. Victoria stared. "You have a gun?" "Montana," he said simply. He pulled out a worn pistol. Behind them, the sedan skidded into the clearing. Its doors opened immediately. 3 men stepped out, armed. One held a rifle. Kerr. Even from this distance, Ethan recognized the smug posture. Victoria watched from the truck. "You can't fight them." Quote. Ethan checked the pistol. 6 rounds. Not great odds. Not planning to win, he said. Just planning to slow them down. Outside, Kerr's voice echoed across the clearing. "Mr. Walker, come on out. No one else has to get hurt." Ethan crouched behind the timber pile, his heart steady, breathing calm. Combat instincts sliding into place like old armor. Victoria looked at him carefully. "You've done this before." "Too many times." Kerr kept talking. "You're protecting the wrong person. The drive belongs to the government." Ethan leaned slightly to peek around the woodpile. The attackers were spreading out, flanking positions. Professional, too professional, not just hired thugs. Victoria whispered from the truck. "They'll kill us." "Maybe." Ethan watched Kerr carefully, but not before they searched the truck. "And when they do..." Victoria's eyes widened. "The drive." Ethan nodded. "They'll find it." Kerr raised his rifle. "Last chance, Walker." Ethan looked back at Victoria. "One question." "What?" "Did Rachel die because of what's on that drive?" Quote. Victoria didn't hesitate. "Yes." Ethan nodded slowly. Then he stood up, hands raised, and stepped out from behind the timber. Kerr smiled. "Smart man." Ethan spoke calmly. "I'll give you the drive." Kerr lowered the rifle slightly. "Good. But first," Ethan said, "you tell me something." Kerr tilted his head. "What?" Ethan's voice dropped. "Who inside Cross Technologies are you protecting?" Kerr chuckled. "You still don't get it." "What?" Kerr's smile turned cruel. "We're not protecting anyone." Ethan's stomach tightened. Then Kerr finished the sentence. "We're protecting the company." Victoria froze. Ethan slowly turned his head toward her. And in that moment, he realized something horrifying. The men chasing them weren't trying to hide Cross Technologies' crimes. They were trying to hide them for Victoria Cross. Which meant only one thing. Rachel Flynn hadn't died protecting Lily from enemies. She had died protecting Lily from her own mother. And now Ethan understood why Victoria had been so desperate to get the drive back. Because if anyone saw what was on it, the most powerful woman in the tech world wouldn't just lose her company, she'd lose everything. For a moment, the entire clearing went silent. Wind moved through the broken beams of the old sawmill. Rusted metal creaked somewhere in the distance. Ethan stood with his hands raised. But his eyes were on Victoria. Rachel Flynn died protecting Lily from her own mother. The thought echoed in his mind like a gunshot. Victoria stepped slowly out of the truck. Her face had changed. The fear was gone. The desperate mother was gone. What stood there now looked much closer to the woman on the covers of business magazines. Cold, precise, unshaken. Kerr smiled. "You see it now, don't you?" Ethan didn't answer. Kerr continued casually. "Rachel Flynn thought she was saving the girl." He laughed softly. "Turns out she was just interfering with business." Victoria's voice cut through the clearing. "Enough, Daniel." Kerr looked at her. "You want to tell him?" Victoria sighed, like someone tired of explaining simple things. "Rachel discovered a market," she said. "A very profitable one." Ethan's stomach tightened. "Cyber weapons." Victoria nodded. "Security vulnerabilities. Government backdoors. Private surveillance tools." She gestured toward the drive in Ethan's pocket. "Every major government buys them. Every intelligence agency uses them. and every one of them pretends it doesn't. Ethan stared at her. You sold national security. I sold software. You sold weapons. Victoria shrugged. In the modern world, they're the same thing. Kerr laughed. That's why Cross Technologies grew from a startup to $12 billion in 6 years. Ethan's fists clenched. And Rachel found out. Victoria nodded slowly. She was smarter than I expected. She started collecting proof. She contacted the FBI. And then? Victoria's eyes went cold. Then she made the mistake of involving my daughter. Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. You killed her! Victoria didn't flinch. I ordered a problem handled. Noah's small voice came from inside the truck. Dad? Ethan's heart twisted. He glanced back. His son was sitting up now, eyes wide, terrified. Victoria followed Ethan's gaze. For a second, something flickered in her expression. Then it disappeared. Daniel, she said calmly, take the drive. Kerr walked forward. Gladly. Ethan slowly lowered his hands. You're not getting it. Kerr chuckled. You're not in a position to negotiate. 3 rifles pointed at him. Victoria watched with mild curiosity. Ethan Walker, she said, you're a good man. You saved my daughter. But you made a mistake. Ethan tilted his head. What mistake? You believed there was a side to pick. There isn't. She stepped closer. There's only power. And people who get crushed by it. Ethan's voice stayed quiet. Rachel Flynn didn't get crushed. Victoria frowned slightly. She died. She protected Lily. Victoria waved dismissively. She was emotional. Emotional people lose. Ethan reached into his pocket slowly. Kerr raised his rifle. Careful. Ethan pulled out the metal drive. It gleamed in the sunlight. The entire clearing seemed to focus on it. Everything you built is on this, Ethan said. Victoria nodded. Give it to me. Instead, Ethan held it up between 2 fingers. You know something funny? Victoria's eyes narrowed. What? I never trusted you. Kerr stiffened. What did you do? Ethan smiled faintly. You think a mechanic who survived Afghanistan doesn't know how to make a backup? Victoria's face changed, for the first time since she arrived. Real fear, where is it? Quote. Ethan nodded toward the truck. Right where your men can't get it. Kerr spun toward the vehicle. Victoria's voice snapped like a whip. Stop. He froze. Victoria looked back at Ethan. You're bluffing. Am I? Ethan's eyes flicked toward the truck. Noah was staring at him, confused. Scared, but still holding something in his small hands. A phone. Victoria noticed. Her eyes widened slightly. Smart man, Ethan said. The moment we left the parking lot. My son sent everything to someone who knows exactly what to do with it. Kerr swore under his breath. Who? Quote, Ethan's smile faded. Agent Martinez. The name hit like a grenade. Victoria turned slowly toward Kerr. You said the FBI was contained. Kerr looked furious. They were. Ethan spoke quietly. Rachel Flynn trusted her. And so do I. In the distance, a faint sound reached the clearing. Helicopters, plural. Victoria heard it. Her eyes closed briefly. Damn, Kerr cursed. They're early. Ethan took a slow breath. You know what Rachel told Lily before she died? Victoria didn't respond. She told her to hide, to stay quiet, because bad people were coming. Ethan looked directly into Victoria's eyes. Turns out she was right. The helicopter noise grew louder. Dust swirled across the clearing. Kerr turned toward the sky. This isn't over. Victoria's voice dropped to ice. No. She looked at Ethan. It isn't. Then something changed. Her expression softened slightly as she looked toward the truck. Toward Lily's father's enemy. Toward the child inside. Noah, she said quietly. The boy looked up. confused. Victoria stared at him for a long moment. Then she whispered something almost too soft to hear. "Lily likes drawing castles." Ethan frowned. "What?" Victoria stepped back and raised her hands. Kerr turned toward her in shock. "What are you doing?" Victoria's answer came quietly, ending it. The helicopters thundered overhead. Black tactical aircraft. Federal markings. Agent Martinez stepped out of the first one before the landing skids even touched the ground. Her voice roared across the clearing. "Drop your weapons!" Kerr's men hesitated. Victoria didn't. She slowly knelt on the ground, hands raised. Ethan stared at her. "Why?" Victoria looked up at him. Her voice was calm, because Lily deserves a world where monsters lose. Then Agent Martinez's team surrounded the clearing, rifles raised, sirens in the distance. And Ethan Walker realized something strange. The most powerful woman in the tech world had just surrendered. But the story wasn't over yet. Because the drive in his hand still contained secrets powerful enough to destroy governments. And someone out there was going to try very hard to stop that from happening. The helicopters settled into the clearing like iron giants. Dust and loose gravel blasted across the abandoned mill yard. Federal agents poured out in tight formation, rifles raised, moving with the kind of precision that only came from years of training. Agent Jennifer Martinez stepped forward first. Her eyes scanned the scene in seconds. Ethan standing with the drive, Victoria Cross kneeling in the dirt, Kerr and his men frozen between surrender and desperation. Martinez's voice was calm but deadly. "Daniel Kerr, step away from the weapon." Kerr laughed bitterly. "You really think this ends today?" Martinez didn't blink. "It ends right now." Kerr looked around. Agents surrounded the clearing from every angle. Snipers had already taken positions on the mill roof. There was no escape. Slowly, Kerr dropped the rifle. His men followed. Metal clattered against concrete. Martinez approached carefully. Two agents immediately moved to restrain Kerr. "You're making a mistake," Kerr said quietly as the cuffs snapped around his wrists. Martinez leaned closer. "No," she said. "You did." Ethan finally lowered the drive. His hands were shaking now that the adrenaline had started to fade. Martinez walked toward him. "You okay?" she asked. "I've had worse mornings." She glanced toward the truck where Noah was still sitting. "Your son?" "Yeah." "You kept him safe." Ethan nodded toward Victoria. She surrendered. Martinez looked at the billionaire kneeling in the dust. "Not something I expected." Victoria slowly stood as agents approached. No resistance, no arguments, just quiet acceptance. Martinez stopped in front of her. "Victoria Cross, you're under arrest for conspiracy, illegal cyber weapons trafficking, obstruction of justice, and the murder of Rachel Flynn." Victoria met her eyes calmly. "Rachel Flynn saved my daughter." Martinez's expression softened slightly. "And you killed her." Victoria didn't argue. She discovered something she couldn't ignore. "And you silenced her." Quote. Victoria's voice remained steady. "Yes." Ethan felt a chill run through him. Martinez gestured to the agents. "Take her." As they placed cuffs on Victoria's wrists, she turned toward Ethan one last time. There was no anger in her eyes now, only something tired. "Did Lily send you the drawing?" she asked quietly. Ethan nodded. "She did." A faint smile touched Victoria's lips. "She's healing." "She deserves better than this," Ethan said. Victoria nodded slowly. "I know." For a moment, they stood there in silence. Two parents. Two very different choices. Then, the agents led her away. Kerr was already being shoved toward another helicopter. He glared at Ethan as he passed. "This changes nothing," Kerr muttered. "People like you don't beat people like us." Ethan didn't respond. Martinez did. "Actually," she said. They just did. The helicopters lifted off an hour later. Evidence secured. Prisoners transported, statements taken. The clearing slowly returned to silence. Ethan sat on the tailgate of his truck. Noah leaned against him. "Dad?" "Yeah, buddy." Quote, "Are the bad guys gone?" Ethan looked out at the empty sky. "For now." Noah thought about that. Then he asked the question only a child would ask. Did we win? Ethan smiled faintly. I think Rachel did. 6 months later, Seattle. Cross Technologies collapsed almost overnight. The evidence inside the drive exposed everything. Secret exploit markets, government corruption, illegal surveillance deals across 3 continents. Executives were arrested. Politicians resigned. Investigations spread across multiple countries. Victoria Cross pled guilty. In exchange for her cooperation, the courts gave her a life sentence instead of multiple life sentences. Some called it justice, others called it mercy, but no one called it victory. Because one person never lived to see it. Rachel Flynn. The nanny who refused to look away. The woman who chose to protect a child instead of protecting herself. Her name slowly spread through news reports and court documents. Not as a criminal, but as a whistleblower. A hero. Back in Montana, spring had returned again. The snow that once buried Highway 87 was gone. Grass covered the fields. Butterflies drifted through the warm air. Ethan stood in his driveway, watching Noah ride his bike in circles. Life had gone back to something close to normal. Miller's auto repair was still busy. Bills still needed paying. School projects still covered the kitchen table. But sometimes, when the wind moved just right, Ethan remembered that night in the snow. The little girl standing alone in the road. The moment that changed everything. His phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. He opened it. A photo appeared on the screen. Lily, at a park, laughing as she ran through a spray of water from a fountain. On the back of the photo, a handwritten message. She asks about you sometimes. Thank you for protecting her. Ethan looked up at Noah. Dad! The boy shouted. Watch this! Noah lifted his feet from the pedals and coasted down the driveway. For a second, Ethan felt that familiar protective instinct surge. Then he smiled. Careful, kid. Noah stopped and laughed. Relax, Dad. Quote. Ethan walked over and ruffled his hair. You know something. What? The world's full of powerful people. Noah nodded like that sounded important. Yeah? But the biggest mistake powerful people make, Ethan looked out across the Montana sky, is forgetting that the people they ignore are the ones watching. Noah thought about that, then shrugged. Can we get pancakes? Ethan laughed. Yeah, buddy. Pancakes sound perfect. They walked inside together. Behind them, butterflies drifted across the yard, free. And somewhere far away in Seattle, a little girl was drawing castles again. Not because the world had become safe, but because someone had refused to let powerful people decide how the story ended.